And we continue at 1:06 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wangs in Culver City.
John, LA Mayor Karen Bass keeps on doubling down. She was just in an interview with ABC News where she continues to defend the riotous behavior in Los Angeles.
So when we look at what happened last night in our city, yesterday afternoon, last night, who's to blame for that?
Well, I just have to say, dial back time to Thursday. None of this needed to happen. Why did we need to have raids here? It was very clear that if raids happened here, that the community was going to respond in a very negative way.
Well, if Fidel Castro is the apple in her eye, then maybe she really does think it was peaceful.
Her defense now is, of course we're going to riot. That's what we do.
And she thinks that's helping the cause?
Every single interview she has done, whether it's on the phone or on camera, she gives tiny little pieces of lip service to we don't want anyone committing violence out there, and then defends the actions of the people that are being violent, saying that they're justified.
Oh, she thinks that you're totally justified using violence in a protest as long as you're really mad. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. He is the editor of the Guss Report. You can read him online at danielguss.substack.com and follow him on X at the Guss Report. Daniel Guss, welcome.
Hey, John and Randy, what an amazing set of circumstances. Thanks for having me back.
Well, you've been digging deep at City Hall, trying to find just exactly who was participating in these riots over the weekend. It was very difficult for you to find out the identities of some of these rioters, but you did find something interesting.
Yeah, I did, and credit to the tip I got from Instagram account Defend the LAPD, a very good source, Defend the LAPD on Instagram. I found out, and of course, for all this talk about Chief McDonnell and Karen Bass and offsetting narratives, there is still this cancer that goes on in local government where they still make it difficult for somebody like me to get to the truth. So two of the arrestees last night, a very small category is two felony arrestees, happen to be sisters, twin sisters, one of whom is an aide to LA City Council member Isabel Jurado, a.k.a. Sleepy Isabel, and she's a council aide by the name of Lucia or Luz Aguiar Cole. Her sister was also arrested, both for the same crime, alleged crime, assault with a deadly weapon, as Dennis Zine spoke about in the last segment, assault with a deadly weapon on a law enforcement officer. But that's not the whole thing. Both of these gals, Antonia Cole and her sister who works for Isabel Jurado, Lucia Aguiar Cole, they're both being held at the 77th Street Jail, not the Metropolitan Detention Center, on a $50,000 bail. But the big reveal is that they are the daughters of the current Deputy Los Angeles City Controller under Kenneth Mejia, and his name is Rick Cole. And Daddy has a bit of a vandalism background himself, because he was accused 25 years ago and eventually admitted to vandalism using a city truck when he was city manager for Azusa. So it's really dicey. And somehow the Los Angeles Police Department didn't know that the felony arrestee works for one member of city council.
Okay, so just to be clear here, the two ladies that were arrested, they were arrested by local authorities and sent to a local jail. The allegation is not that they alleged a federal law enforcement officer and they're being held in a federal facility ready to go before a federal judge. These are local charges, correct?
Correct. And they were arrested, according to the inmate records, by two separate agencies at the same time. So it must have been pandemonium. As best as I can tell, one was arrested by the LAPD and the other, I believe, by the sheriff's department. But yes, for local crimes, alleged assault with a deadly weapon on police officers.
Now, it'll be interesting to see, given the fact that this will be the local prosecutor, which in this case is Nathan Hochman, who would be leading this charge, if the family is politically connected, where you have dad working in the controller's office and you have one of the defendants working for one of the members of the LA City Council, if they'll have the juice that they need to get Hochman to back off or give them a sweetheart deal, because it seems like if there's going to be any political games being played with these prosecutions, it's going to be played at the local level because that's where you can squeeze them. Hochman relies on endorsements. He needs votes to win re-election. He needs favor with other politicians in the city. So if you can squeeze someone, you can squeeze him. It looks like Bill Asaley, who's the U.S. attorney, the brand new Trump-appointed U.S. attorney in Southern California, he is not willing to play ball. He is not happy with people who are harming federal officers. He is not happy with people who are damaging federal property. And one of the people that he picked up over the weekend was the man who's in charge of the SEIU for California. And when asked if there would be any special favors for him, because different politicians have been asking him for favors to try to go easy on this guy or let him out or whatever it is that they're asking for, he said, no favors will be granted. I'm going to treat him like I'd treat anywhere else. From that point of view, these two are probably better off with the local authorities and not with the feds.
Right, based on what we know right now. What we don't know is what else they might have, I have no evidence, might have been involved with, because people who are going to attempt to cause great bodily harm to a law enforcement officer, with a dad who's admitted to doing similar misconduct in the past, you never know what else is going on. But from that limited perspective, yes, they are better at the local level. Although I have to say, John, when this stuff was unfurling early in the weekend, Nathan Hochman posted a very odd video where he's reviewing sandwich shops in the area. And I was dumbfounded when I saw that. So between the local political favoritism and Daddy working for City Controller Kenneth Mejia, yes, I can imagine something's going to be squeezed. But I think the flip side with Asaley, Trump's U.S. attorney for the Central District, I think L.A. and Southern California are going to be the poster children for what's going on right now.
We're speaking with Daniel Guss, who you can read online at danielguss.substack.com and follow him on X at The Guss Report. Daniel, as we know, a number of arrests have been made in downtown Los Angeles and elsewhere with those associated with these riots, various crimes from assaulting a police officer to damaging public property, whatever the case may be. But just because you haven't been arrested yet, if you were participating in, let's say, an assault on a police officer, downtown LA has cameras all over the place. People are obviously recording with their own cell phones. Police have access to some of those videos. They're going to be reviewing these videos, and it's very possible that more arrests will be made.
Right, but therein lies the problem. Recently there's been this whole story about Nathan Hochman, the district attorney, not prosecuting blatant animal cruelty cases along Skid Row. And his office has been saying, well, we can't just prosecute. The law enforcement has to file the complaint, which is right. The prosecutors act on a report from law enforcement. But will the LAPD, which is overseen by Karen Bass and City Council, actually submit valid, usable, and honest criminal complaints about the people who they have arrested or that they might arrest? So what happens from here depends on the inside City Hall political pressure for the LAPD to say, well, not enough evidence or not enough good evidence. And I've seen it happen 1,000 times. Last night, Chief McDonald was farting on about, oh, he arrested a dozen or 24 people. There were thousands of people out there, John and Randy. There were thousands, and they only arrested a dozen or two? How can that be? It could have been much bigger. It could have been much more. And I was saying to myself, you know what? The fix is in. How many of these people are going to be charged with felonies? How many people are going to be arrested at all? And I think I know where that's going. Virtually nobody.
We had you on after the LA fires began, and you had sources inside the fire department that said that the fix was in on the fire chief, that Karen Bass was going to part ways with the fire chief. She was obviously very angry at the fire chief for saying that the budget cuts that the LAFD experienced impacted their ability to respond to the fires. That obviously upset Karen Bass a great deal. And from that moment forward, Karen Bass had decided that the fire chief had to go. Last night on television, the police chief for the LAPD went on TV and destroyed the narrative that the mayor and the governor had been putting out, that the protests were peaceful, that people were by and large not breaking the law, there wasn't a lot of illegal activity going on, that people who were making those claims were spreading fake information, false information. And the police chief went out and said, nope, they were violent yesterday, they got even worse today, the police officers are overwhelmed, they're being shot, they're having fireworks shot at them, they're having pieces of concrete thrown at them, they're having rocks thrown at them, and bye-bye goes the narrative. How much anger exists out there right now within LA City Hall towards the police chief for breaking bad on that?
Oh, you know, you're useful until you're not useful, and then until you're useful again. Because earlier in the weekend, before it really got to its lowest points yesterday afternoon and last night, I received a release from the mayor's office, which echoed a release that was almost identical from the LAPD, where they referred to them as demonstrators and protesters, not rioters, and in which even the LAPD dropped the word peaceful to go along with it. So the LAPD went along until it could no longer get along, because McDonald may be facing a mutiny from City Hall, but he could also be facing a mutiny from his own, enormous agency. So the LAPD went along with the narrative until it got extremely violent later yesterday. So it's like you said earlier, John, McDonald, whenever he has to go, he'll collect his pension, and he could write a book, he could do anything, or just go play golf for the rest of his days. So he's kind of insulated from it. Kristen Crowley, by the way, the LAFD chief, she was. I stand by my original reporting with Josh Boswell over at the Daily Mail that Bass was going to fire Crowley much earlier while the fires were still going on. And it was only until we came out with the story, because I had insiders who said Crowley was saying her goodbyes, until it was no longer the right time. Bass kept her around a little longer, and then they eventually got rid of her, which was the worst kept secret in City Hall. So yeah, the handwriting is on the wall, but the problem is Crowley has been there for a long time, and McDonald was a recent hire. So if she does get rid of Jim McDonald, it's going to be a really bad look for her, since she just hired him a few months ago. So yes, but no.
How much friction is there right now between LA Mayor Karen Bass and California Governor Gavin Newsom? And I say that because when Bass's approval number started going in the toilet, whenever Newsom would come down to Southern California for something fire-related, he seemed to always go to Altadena and not to Pacific Palisades. Altadena, of course, not part of the city of L.A., so Karen Bass has no power and influence there. But Pacific Palisades, that's in the city of Los Angeles, so if Newsom shows up, the mayor would presumably be there. Last night, when the picture from the command center went out over social media, you saw a lot of familiar faces in that photograph, including law enforcement and others. Karen Bass's picture was not included. She was not in that room. Do you think that was by accident? That was by design? What's going on between those two?
Oh my God, man! The best analogy that I can think of is the Peanuts character Pigpen. And Karen Bass, among politicians throughout the state, I think is Pigpen. No disregard to Pigpen. I don't think anybody wants to be seen with her. I don't think anybody wants to be locking arms with her. And Newsom is a creature of his next chess move, 2-3 steps down the road. He's a lot younger than Bass, who's in her early 70s, and he still thinks he has a political future. Bass only has a political future in L.A., and the sand is running out of that hourglass.
Daniel Guss, editor of the Guss Report. You can get him online at danielguss.substack.com, and you can follow him on X at the Guss Report. He breaks news right and left at LA City Hall, as he always does. So definitely keep up with Daniel Guss on Substack for all the latest related to the rioting going on in downtown Los Angeles. Daniel Guss, thank you so much for stopping by.
And kudos to the people who give me verifiable tips. John and Randy, thank you so much.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Kevin in Beverly Hills writes in, being the master of the obvious that I am, I finally figured out why you guys play Hit the Road Jack before you go in and out of all your breaks. It's because after most segments listening to this show, I feel like I got to hit the road, Jack. I got to get the hell up on out of here, baby boy.
I said, hell no, baby boy. Let me get up on out of here.
Some days you feel like doing that more than others.
This weekend was a whole weekend of every time I looked at my phone and I saw another live feed of people attacking law enforcement that I started looking at Zillow, seeing how I can get the hell out of here.
I was just physically angry all weekend long. Just watching that happen and then watching the city put up with it and then watching the city denying that it was happening. It's like, this is why people live in Orange County.
Looks like traffic's getting blocked in downtown L.A. again already. We're starting early today.
You don't say. I drove right through downtown L.A. on the 10 freeway this morning, and I didn't see anything going on that was, I don't know, threatening, but I didn't get off the freeway, so there's that. But I did see a string of CHP black and whites coming down, I guess it would be westbound on the 10, right through downtown. I don't know how many of them there were. Let's just say somewhere between 5 and 10. And they were headed towards downtown L.A. So I guess they were getting ready for whatever's coming today. And Randy, if you have friends or family out of state and they're asking you what's going on in California, and you want to send them a podcast edition of the first hour of today's program to explain, that's easy to do.
All you got to do is search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcast. Apple Podcasts app, iHeart, Spotify. Search for The John Phillips Show. Hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes or get one of our apps. You could search for the KABC app or the KSFO app and get everything there.
It is our pleasure to welcome Professor Barbara Stone to the program, Professor of Political Science Emeritus at California State University at Fullerton.
Happy Monday, John.
You know, a long time ago, you gave me very, very, very good advice. You said, John, never own property in the city of Los Angeles. You can own it in L.A. County. You can own it in any number of independent municipalities, but whatever you do, do not buy property in the city of Los Angeles.
Well, as you just indicated, I was right. And over the years, I never have. And it's just the way that, maybe it's just the way big cities go. But L.A. is the pits, so they get what they deserve.
Let's talk about what happened over the weekend, where we saw officers being assaulted, we saw black and whites being set on fire, freeways shut down, police horses assaulted, fireworks being shot at officers, federal buildings being attacked, everything that we saw play out on TV. And politician after politician after politician from Gavin Newsom on down went on TV and said, it's all peaceful. Anyone who says it's not peaceful is not telling you the truth. We have it under control. It's peaceful. And they kept repeating it over and over and over again until the police chief went on TV and said, yeah, it's really violent and we're under attack and we're overwhelmed. What do you make of that decision to consciously go on TV and claim it to be something other than what it was?
Actually, in a funny way, it's depressing but easy to understand. Go back to when you had the George Floyd situation. It was almost like Holy Writ between the media and the Democrats that these were peaceful protests. And I remember we could even see it where the reporters on TV were going, I'm here at the peaceful protest while the buildings in the background burned. It's almost like it's a cant that they have to repeat over and over because anything else they can think of, they think will hurt their political prospects. There was one additional thing this time, and you shouldn't forget it. Remember, this is Donald Trump's fault. Karen Bass, who, by the way, looked a little bit more awake than she was coming home from Africa. Not a lot, but she did. Anyhow, Karen Bass's first line out of her mouth was, this is Donald Trump's fault. And then on to the peaceful protests. John, they're not playing with the full decks, the closest I can come. I have no idea why they insist on sticking to a line that's going to cost them, but they insist on doing it. And in fact, if you don't mind my sounding old, that's because I am. The last time this kind of thing happened in L.A. was 1992 with the Rodney King riots. And what came out of that was that in 1994, we passed Proposition 187, denying services including emergency health care and education to illegal aliens. Okay, illegals were not nearly as big an issue, I don't remember, in 1992 as they were in 1994. What's the visual from this wonderful non-violent protest? It's a Waymo car, of all things, on fire, some half-naked guy with hair down to his rear standing on top of it, waving a Mexican flag. That's your image. Why they think this is going to turn out well politically for them, I have no idea, but these people do it. Let's be honest, a lot of Republicans do too. But these people do it because of political advantage or that they can't see their way out. And I'm dumbfounded, to be honest.
You have people online like Anthony Scaramucci, who's now saying, I think that this is making Gavin Newsom the most likely Democratic nominee in 2028. And to a certain extent, at least for the time being, this story is making Gavin Newsom the chief foil for Donald Trump. But maybe people inside the bubble here don't see it. I can't imagine how horrified the people are right now in Iowa or Wisconsin or Pennsylvania or North Carolina. They're not watching this thinking, oh, this looks good. This is a good look for Gavin Newsom. They're watching this thinking these people are crazy over there.
Yep. That's exactly what they're doing. And, of course, now, John, we've watched now Governor Newsom for quite a while. I started paying attention when he was mayor of San Francisco. He is very bravely telling all of them that he is going to sue Donald Trump. Donald Trump's administration has no power to come in and take over the National Guard from him. I could spend a bit of time here on why that's a really stupid position to take. But you know what? That's not how Gavin does. He makes noise, he pronounces, and because it really is a very stupid position, he won't do it. So here's your great hero of the anti-Trump movement now, and he's not going to do it. I'm not at all sure that's going to play well. And if he does, he'll lose big. That's, it's easy. And, of course, you can always ask, well, then, Gavin, where were you? Oh, I don't know, probably at the French Laundry.
What do you make of them taking as long as it took them to tell people to knock off the violence? And then when they finally got around to it, what they said was, if you keep burning things down, you're going to make Donald Trump look good. Don't burn things down because then you'll make him look good, and you don't want to do that. It wasn't, hey, that's illegal, you're not allowed to do that, or hey, we all live here, we all paid for that, don't do that. That never even crossed their mind.
No. And, of course, I guess if you add everything up that I've been saying, that's the key. It's such a system of belief that it never crosses their mind. They understand, although you need to control yourself a little bit because it looks bad. You know, I wish one of them, well, no, that's silly. I was going to say I wish one of them would show some self-awareness and think through that what's happening here is what happens when you declare yourself a sanctuary city or a sanctuary state, and then bring in a president whose primary promise to the public is that he's going to go after illegal aliens. Let's, for the moment, just grant everybody that what the feds want are the criminals, okay? Where do you find the criminals? You find them at the courthouse, you find them in the jails, you go, you get them out, and then you deport them. But in sanctuary jurisdictions, you can't do that because they're not going to give you the criminals. So you have two choices if you're Donald Trump's administration. You can just back off and go, well, then I guess we won't go after the criminal aliens, or you go looking for them where they are. And, of course, John, where they are is in this instance, Paramount. And you can't just go to the jails. You find them in the community. You find them around Home Depot. And they're there with others who connect to them who may not be criminals but are also here illegally. You're going to pick them up. And so the ones causing this family disruption, the ones causing the damage in the community is not ICE. It's the idiots in our state and local government who are creating sanctuary jurisdictions and force the other kind of activity. And I wish just one would pretend to see it, but I guess they don't. They see peaceful protests.
If you're an open borders politician, let's say you're a George Bush, or you are someone who pushed for amnesty at some point in the past. The storyline that you put out is these are hardworking people. All they want to do is go to work, pay their taxes, provide for their families, assimilate, learn the language, adopt the red, white, and blue. That's basically the argument that they give. The narrative that we saw over the weekend, as you accurately described, is give us what we want or we're going to light your city on fire and we're not going to stop. And oh, by the way, after we light your cars on fire, we're going to stand above it with the Mexican flag like some sort of conqueror, and that picture is going to go all over the internet. What they're doing destroys the narrative that they put out that's the sympathetic narrative that could potentially give them at least some of what they want. They're destroying that right now, whether they know it or not.
That's absolutely correct. And as I say, I'll go back to the 92, 94 time period. True story. John, I had a couple of rather liberal students, smart guys, liberal. 187 came, it looked punitive to them. They were voting no. Then we had marches ahead of 187, so this was after 1992, down the streets of L.A., which they'll do again, by the way, Waving Mexican flags. My liberal students were so offended they voted yes for 187. People didn't. You understand the guy standing on the Waymo car doesn't care. You and I are not discussing anything relevant to that person. That person wants social disruption, social disorder, a little anarchy is what we have in mind, so he's perfectly happy. It's all these Democrat politicians I just can't wrap my mind around. And I don't know, I guess I'm glad I'm not one.
Kamala Harris came out with a very strong statement yesterday declaring all of the rioting to be perfectly peaceful, going after Donald Trump. She actually found a way to put herself to the left of Gavin Newsom on this subject, which is hard to do. What do you think the motivation is there? Is it just typical Kamala stupidity and bad judgment? Or is this an indication that she's running for governor and she thinks this is how she's going to do it?
By the way, leading with a Kamala laugh. I'm serious. Have I ever told you that woman's laugh drives me crazy? Though that's not a good reason to vote for or against anybody. Okay, personal belief. I have no firsthand information. I have no sources. Kamala is not interested in this state, not even riots. She didn't get around to saying anything till yesterday, which I will point out to you is Sunday. Somebody told her, hey, babe, you're thinking of running for governor here. You used to be AG. You should say something. And somebody drafted for her an absolutely boilerplate statement that said it's all Donald Trump's fault. And actually, I think she said something quite similar about the George Floyd riots, and that it's evil Trump, don't you know that? Somebody told her she really needed to do something. And then we go back to my point about the Democrats have their ideology and don't let facts confuse you.
What's interesting to me is she and Joe had 4 years in the White House. If they wanted to do something about immigration, they had their opportunity to do it. But instead, what they chose to do is just leave the border wide open and then publicly claim that the border was secure and everything was fine.
Yeah. Well, I honestly believe now watch her. Remember, she was the border czar. She can't even come up with anything intelligent to say about riots in the biggest city in her own state, right? Why on earth do you think she even thought about was the border open? Any more than Joe thought about was the border open? I actually, by the way, periodically go, the country escaped a bullet, because you had people there who weren't running anything and who would have had no idea what to do if they were. And dear Lord, what could have happened? John, they had no clue. And you have your activists, by the way, some of whom just go watch them marching around on the streets of L.A., who they want open borders, all right, but actually they only want open borders, I believe, as a vehicle to anarchy. And places like this, they're getting it. But don't give Kamala and Joe too much credit for thinking it through. They didn't.
Last question before you go. We're going through an insurance crisis here in California. We now had tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars of property and equipment destroyed in downtown Los Angeles, probably millions, actually. And it looks like it's going to continue. How are any of us going to be able to buy insurance? We won't do anything about the fires. We won't do anything about the crime. Now we have the civil unrest that's going on. At what point are we just not able to buy a policy?
Very soon. Okay? Where it's just not. See, what's all happened is it's always been, well, there are so many people in California. It's such a big market that the companies just have to deal with it. Clearly, that's been breaking down. When we, the people of California, decided that we wanted to elect an insurance commissioner, we took a huge step towards dissolution, though we didn't know it, because then things get done for pretty straight-up political reasons, not just sort of political reasons. And when you finish, in the end, the insurance industry is about risk. And we've worked very hard at making California much too big a risk. So the answer is, John, oh, I'm old enough, I'll figure it out. But my kids and grandkids, of course, the answer is the grandkids, none of them at this point are here. So, anyway.
Professor Barbara Stone.
Okay, John. You depress me. We started out on such a high note, and look what happened. Okay, John, thanks.
Professor of Political Science Emeritus at California State University at Fullerton. Thank you so much.
Okay.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. We have one more hour to go. Former California Assemblyman Chuck DeVore joins us, and former member of the FBI, Bobby Chacon, stops by as well. Don't you go anywhere.